Hello, everyone. This is Victoria Mattia. I hope that you are having an absolutely awesome day and you are listening to the Mom Care Coach. So, if this is your first time joining us today, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that it is a blessing to you and an encouragement to you, and you're able to get some beneficial information out of it. And if you are a longtime listener, thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate it. I hope that this is a blessing to you as well. So let's get on into it. Today we are talking about sleep, something that is so very, very important, but often very challenging for many of us that are autism parents, both moms and dads, and especially if you are the primary caregiver of a child on the autism spectrum that has struggled with sleep. You know, sleep in my household has been challenging pretty much most of my children's lives. We have tried many things and it's much better than it used to be, but it is something that we constantly need to work on. Now, what I have also found, if you don't know me, I am a former director of an autism clinic. I looked at all of the therapists and their backgrounds and everything. I went to hospitals and consulted with the autism docs so that we would be on the same page. And we were a new clinic, and it was very fundamental in the community because in the community I was living in at the time, there weren't a lot of therapy options that didn't have waiting lists. As a matter of fact, there were pretty much probably just a couple, and then we were probably the only one that had the shortest waiting list, and there were just a few in the community. If you actually wanted more therapy options, it needed to go through the schools or you needed to travel long distances. So when I spoke with the doctors, it was important for them to understand what we did. We provided all of the typical therapies that is recommended for children on the autism spectrum, as well as we had several alternative therapies that we offered as well. And many of the families really struggled with getting sleep. And what I also found was that even after the children started getting better with sleep hygiene, where it was more consistent and at least several hours throughout the night that they were asleep, that didn't automatically make it easy for the parents to be able to sleep. How it works is that your body gets used to whatever it's going through. And so if your body has gone months, weeks, years without proper sleep hygiene, consistent, dependable sleep every night for the hours that one should be asleep, then it gets used to not having sleep. That can be very difficult and it can be a problem, especially as we age as women, as we go through perimenopause, on averages between the ages of 35 and 55, because the average age of menopause, which is one day for women in America, is between 49 and 54. So somewhere in between there, women are going through peri, and what happens is when you're going through that season, then there's hormonal fluctuations, which can cause insulin fluctuations, because if you didn't know that insulin is actually a hormone, and so there can be fluctuations with that, and with those kinds of things that can naturally impact our sleep. So really getting it dialed in before that is beneficial, but even if you are going through peri right now, you can still work on sleep hygiene. And so today I am going to give you my top 10 tips that's going to help with sleep. Now, of course, I am not a medical doctor. I am a certified women's wellness educator and certified life and health coach. I specifically work with women who have children on the autism spectrum because our needs are different than the neurotypical individual. And so I really hone in and center in on what we need to do to be able to receive the changes and help that we can make in our life that can affect how our longevity and how we feel right now. Okay, so let's talk about it. So, of course, we're talking about mindset today. And so our one big idea is that sleep hygiene can change how you feel. Okay, sleep hygiene can change how you feel. So I have several things that I've wrote down, and I'm going to go over them. These are not in any particular order, but they are really important. Now, all of the other 4 intentional needs, if you're new here, we talk about sleep, nutrition, mindset, and movement. Those are our 4 intentional needs. And those 4 intentional needs are tethered to overarching goals that are related to self-care. And we support our self-care needs by those 4 intentional needs. So sleep is tethered to helping us have restorative rest in our lives, and movement is tethered to having joyful movement in our lives. Mindset is tethered to having a calm mind, and nutrition is tethered to having a nourished body. These are all very important, and we want to look at our 4 intentional needs like a house. Like we are the house, and we need to create a strong foundation. So like when you're building a house, you need to have a strong foundation so that your house can stand the test of time. And it's the same with us. When we have that strong foundation, it can help us weather whatever storm, emotional, physical, mental, whatever it has to do what's going on with our children. As you know, different things in life changes, it affects us. And when we have that strong foundation, then you have a strong house. And those pillars, those overarching goals, which are our pillars, will be able to be achieved when we are really focusing on that foundation right now. Okay? All right. So when we talk about the importance of sleep, I find that for parents of autism, children that have an autism spectrum diagnoses that struggle with sleep, not every child struggles with sleep, but if you have a child that does, that can interrupt your sleep, and that can be challenging to you. And so even after they have worked out that through nutrition, detoxing, prescriptions, different therapists, all of those things, we still have to work on our own sleep hygiene. So let's talk about it. Number 1, screens. We want to turn off all screens if possible. And I say if possible because actually we really do need to turn off all screens at least an hour before we get in bed. I say if possible because I understand there can be a lot of variability around that, especially when you have children on the spectrum. Maybe that is you're using an AAC device, or you have a partner, your husband doesn't want to turn off stuff. I understand there's all kinds of issues that can affect that, but we do need to understand that that is something that we need to do to help us to improve our sleep. Okay? So as time goes on, do everything you can, do your best to limit the screen time and understand things don't have to be perfect before we see change. We can see change, as we move on, and sometimes things happen slowly. Maybe that is something that's a huge struggle for you. So for you, maybe it's like 30 minutes before, you need to be in bed. And then you move up to 45 minutes. Then you move up to an hour. The most important thing is getting started and understand how much of a big deal that all of these little tiny tweaks can make in our life. So that's something that's wonderful to look forward to. Okay, the next thing, number 2, our last meal of the day. So we want to have our last meal of the day 3 hours before we are wanting to go to sleep. So if we're wanting to be in bed by 8:30, hypothetically, then your last meal needs to be completed by 5:30. The reason why is because when we lay down and we are in bed, we don't want our body to be focusing on digesting our food. We want our body to be able to sleep deeply, get into REM sleep, and to be able to detox and clean up the body and the brain. Those kinds of things has to happen in a really deep level of sleep, and it's hard for the body to do that if it's really focused on breaking down our food and absorbing nutrients and all of the type of things that goes along with digestion. Okay, so the next one, so tip number 3 is caffeine. So we don't want more than 1 to 2 cups of caffeine a day. And for me, that has always been very challenging. I have times where I hardly have any caffeine, and then other times where I have more. So for me, I choose green tea and matcha. But I am actually relating to any caffeine at all. So that means if you are a coffee drinker, same thing. If you are a coffee drinker, try to get organic coffee, coffee that is minimally processed and it's organic. That does make a difference. There's a lot of different chemicals that's used in regular coffee that's not good for the body and is often more acidic as well. So we want to do our best to minimize the caffeine, which is so challenging. I do know. I am not just saying these things. These are things that I have to constantly work on. I get really good at one area, and then I struggle, and then I kind of fall off the wagon and I get back on again. So it's a process, and that's okay too. Having a solid morning routine and nighttime routine. The reason why is because the body works really well when there are predictabilities, and how you end your day is related to how you started your day, and how you start your day is related to how you end your day. So when it comes to the morning routine, just have a few things on your list to start with, unless you're one of those people that likes to have 20 things and you're amazing at executing and you can execute all 20 things. If you're not that person, just start with 3 to 5 things and that's it. So making sure you brush your teeth, wash your body, get dressed, if you choose to do some kind of exercise at that time, some kind of movement at that time, that's up to you. But having a little bit of sun on the face, and if that's where you choose to have your caffeine, then that is your choice. Also, maybe a little bit of prayer and Bible reading is also really great at that time. Now, I gave you a little bit more than the 3 to 5 because everybody's schedule is unique to them. I don't know which ones you need to leave in or which ones you need to leave out. Maybe you get a little bit of sun on your face a little bit later, or maybe you wash up after your kids are off to school. Everything can be a little bit different, but generally speaking, you need to have that quiet time if possible. So prayer and Bible, you want to keep that in. You most definitely want to brush your teeth and get dressed. That should not be optional. And then also, if you want to get some sun on the face at that time, that's fantastic. If you're able to get some movement at that time, that's fantastic as well. And then, of course, if you are doing intermittent fasting, then you're not eating at that time. But if you choose to do that, then having just, a beautiful, healthy breakfast is important as well. And we do have some upcoming episodes. We're going to talk a little bit more about nutrition. Okay, so our next tip, let's talk about the nighttime routine. Okay, so the nighttime routine, I always say, kind of mirrors the morning routine. It's important as well. It's not a step that you want to skip. I have been guilty of that at times where I'm like, well, I kind of done everything I need to do. I'm just going to get in bed so that I'll get in bed earlier. However, having a proper nighttime routine prepares the body for sleep. So that's a really beautiful time. That can be a time where you're having like a nighttime tea, or you're taking your supplements, or you're doing like some stretches. Maybe that's the time that you do a quick wash up or bath so that your body is able to relax a little bit more. And you put on some soft, nice jammies. All of those things. You don't want to, you know, make go faster than it needs to. Allow the time that it takes. And, you know, how we had a couple episodes back, we talked about slowing down, being in the moment. Enjoy your life, right? So the nighttime routine can be a time that can be very relaxing as well. Now, water. Water, I generally recommend that during that last meal, you have the tea or the water or whatever, and those 3 hours you don't have anything. Again, because if you are, you know, drinking a lot of liquid, then and you're trying to get more sleep, well, that can pose a problem. Sometimes if, you know, you drink too much water and you need to get up in the middle of the night, sometimes it can be challenging to get back to sleep. So you want to limit that liquid intake. I usually say with that last meal of the day, that's when you're going to have the last bit of your water. Now, any, you know, outlying factors may be, you know, you have to have a supplement or medication right before sleep, then of course that's a different thing. Okay, now this is really important. A lot of times people will have racing thoughts when they're about to lay down, or they have like all these different things that they are thinking about, and so they, you know, it can be difficult to get to sleep. We can do things to help with that. We can journal. We can do calm holds and tapping if you do those kinds of things. Me personally, I try to do like deep breathing, breath work, where I breathe in for 4 counts and then let it out for 6 counts. If you go on my YouTube channel, last year I did a breath work session. I think it was like 20 minutes or so, and I walked you through several different breathwork options, so you can find that on the Mom Care Coach on YouTube, and it will lead you through. Let me know, like in the comments, or email me if you feel like you would benefit by having like an updated, renewed version of a breathwork session. I'm always up to doing that as well. Okay, so journaling can help with that, breath work, calm holds, those kinds of things. Pilates can help with that as well. And prayer is very, very helpful. You know, praying to the Most High for anything can be helpful, but also praying and, you know, asking for guidance, asking for His guidance on what to do and how to do things and how to manage those racing thoughts. Okay, so also another thing that can actually be helpful, the next tip is writing down your top 6 things that you want to accomplish the next day. And that can be in your household, for you personally, your self-care, or it can be for something else. But if you're writing down no more than 6 things, but you know, you can actually write down 3 to 5 things that you like to accomplish that you feel like you'd actually be able to accomplish in the allotted time that you have, can be very beneficial. So those kinds of things can be really beneficial. Thinking about when you write down those top 6 things, that takes, you know, if you are thinking about a lot of things when you go to bed, that takes, you know, some of that brain space up. And when we're able to write things down, it's very beneficial for our thinking brain and helps us to kind of relax a bit. And so not so much is kind of rumbling around in our mind as we're trying to get to sleep. Next tip, we are wanting to observe the temperature in the room. We don't want to get too hot or too cold throughout the night. That can also wake us up or keep us up. So that's really important, making sure that we have comfy PJs and we are able to be really relaxed and comfortable in our own space. And then the next thing, we have blackout curtains. Blackout curtains are magnetic curtains you can get from Amazon. And those are really awesome because it keeps the room really dark, which can be beneficial and helpful for helping you to go to sleep faster and also to stay asleep, because sometimes when we have that light coming in, it can actually react to our skin and wake us up. As strange as that sounds, there's actually some new science around that. We used to think if light got on our eyes, if you get up throughout the night and then you turn on lights, then it can make it hard for you to go back to sleep. The newest research actually shows that it's not just getting on your eyes, it's even if the light gets on your skin, it can actually wake you up. Wild, I know. But that being the case, it gives us more of an incentive of making sure that it is dark, especially when you're trying to really get in a habit of proper self-care when it comes to sleep. And our last tip for the day, when it comes to sleep, we want to talk about the phone, our smartphones. Our smartphones need to be in a different room, okay, while we're sleeping. Okay, so if you use your phone as an alarm clock, I humbly advise that it would be better to get an alarm clock. You can get an old-fashioned alarm clock almost anywhere, and it doesn't have to be, attached to your phone. And that way, you are not having the same issues with Wi-Fi. Even when the Wi-Fi is off on your phone, when you have an iPhone, the phone can be completely off. But if you lose your phone, it still is able to be signaled, and it kind of wakes up, and then it helps you to know where your phone is. So that lets you know that even though the Wi-Fi is off, it can still affect your body and your brain. And you can Google all of the information about EMFs and how the phone can affect our body and our brain and even our heartbeat, even the rate of digestion, all kinds of things. And it's not just, back in the day, people would think, you're making too big of a deal about it. But nowadays, there is a lot of science to support how the phone really interacts with our natural systems in our body and how it truly relates to us. So I hope that these were beneficial for you and kind of gets you thinking about how you can support yourself with sleep. And I hope you have a fantastic day. And also, don't forget to like and leave a review for this podcast. It makes it easier for other mamas that are looking for similar podcasts to support their own self-care. It makes it easier for them to find it. So please go ahead and do that. And also, if you are looking for new skincare, I have a skincare line that I believe in, that is more natural, and it is fantastic for as we age, but also it has a lot of benefits through the minerals that are in it. So if you'd like to have more information, please do not hesitate to email me, and I will pass all of that info along. So have a fantastic day, and please, as always, do take good self-care. Bye-bye.